Good evening and welcome to the National News Broadcast, bringing to you live from the National News Studios here at the ChannelEye Rupavahini Corporation. I'm Charita Minupurarachi. Joining with me today is Sharon Mascarenhas. An inquiry into the Kandakadu incident. Sagala Ratnayaka says payments have been made for another diesel ship, a ship carrying petrol to reach the island on the 22nd of next month. Signs of gas crisis ending by the middle of next month. Sri Lanka and Qatar discuss over receiving fuel and gas. The Prime Minister recommends to the President to extend the tenure of Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe by a further 6 years. The World Bank says that the existing projects will have to be replanned in order to make financial aid more feasible.
On to the stories in detail now, starting off with local news. A mysterious death of a detainee undergoing rehabilitation at the Kandakadu Rehabilitation Centre has been reported. It has also been reported that a group of nearly 500 inmates of the centre were engaged in rioting and have fled after breaking down the protective barriers of the camp.
However, a group of escapees have been detected and arrested. Commissioner General of Rehabilitation Major General Darshana Hettiarachchi says an unbiased inquiry will be conducted into the death of the detainee.
Top story.
Commissioner General Rehabilitation Major General Darshana Hettiarachchi said that a chaotic situation has arisen due to the rehabilitation centre this morning as a result of the incident that has taken place at the centre yesterday. Some groups of inmates have fled. The detainees are undergoing for rehabilitation as a result of addiction to narcotics that are extremely violent in their behaviour. The Commissioner General says one of the drug addict from Demodara undergoing treatment was found dead. The other inmates infuriated by the incident have damaged properties of the centre. Out of some 400 who fled, 232 have been recaptured by the police and produced before the court. He further said that the army and the police have controlled the situation. He has also said that they have a suspicion over the death of the inmate. Therefore, an unbiased investigation is being conducted in this connection. Nearly 500 security forces personnel were engaged in an operation to apprehend the inmates who have fled the camp. Many of those who escaped have been arrested and some of other escaped detainees have surrendered. However, the detainees have commenced a protest requesting to grant justice on the death of their fellow inmate. Thereafter, the detainees have carried the corpse of the victim to Samavati area from the Kandakadu detention centre. Later on, some of the detainees have attempted to carry the dead body to the Pulithusigama hospital. However, their efforts were thwarted by the security divisions near a roadblock in Somavati.
Top story. In other stories, Sagala Ratnayaka says payments have been made for the purchasing of 38,000 metric tons of diesel from a ship.
The ship is scheduled to reach the island after the 10th of the next month, and Ratnayaka adds that the next ship carrying petrol is expected to reach Sri Lanka by the 22nd of next month.
These facts have been revealed at a discussion with the new directors of the media institutions and editors of newspapers presided over by the Prime Minister today. Problems that have arisen in the importation of fuel have been pointed out on this occasion. Sagala Ratnayake further said that they are currently negotiating over bringing another ship carrying petrol to Sri Lanka prior to the 22nd of next month, when the next available ship is due to unload supplies. He further said that an order has also been made for the purchasing of 100,000 metric tons of gas. This stock of gas is scheduled to reach the island between the period of 6th and the 31st of next month. All arrangements have been made for the distribution of these stocks. Sagala Ratnayake have pointed out that therefore the gas shortage will come to an end next month. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has stated at a meeting that the government is deciding to restrict the printing of currency notes, yet that the aim is to bring to a minimum level of the printing of money by next year. The Prime Minister also said a feasibility report on the alleviation of crisis will be submitted to the next parliamentary session. The World Bank Sri Lankan Director Faris Hadadzavos says that the existing World Bank projects will have to be reorganized in a manner to facilitate the provision of financial assistance.
The World Bank official at a meeting with President Gotabaya Rajapaksa said that further assistance will be extended following an agreement reached with the International Monetary Fund. The meeting between the President and the World Bank representatives took place at the President's office in Colombo. The President at this occasion has clarified on the prevailing situation in the country. He has also pointed out on the need to allocate World Bank credit assistance to banks and financial institutions. The President had requested the World Bank Director to issue the loans at low interest rate, enabling entrepreneurs in the fields of agriculture, livestock resources, small and medium-scale industries and other businesses to use the funds in their activities. The World Bank representative have also informed their decision to revise the aid for the provision of domestic gas and fertilizer. Increasing of taxes and withdrawal of subsidies on the diesel and kerosene have severely affected many sectors, including fisheries. Therefore, the need of focusing the government's attention on such vulnerable groups have been reiterated. The President said that these facts will have to be evaluated when coming into an agreement with the International Monetary Fund. President Manager of the World Bank, Vio Kanda, as well as President Secretary Garmini Sunrat and Chief of the President's Staff Anuradha Dissanayake have also attended the discussion.
Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara was engaged in a discussion with the Deputy Director of the Qatar Development Fund yesterday. Talks have been centred on the procurement of fuel and gas under credit facility. Minister Kanchana Wijesekara said that the Deputy Director General has assured to consider the request for loan concessions through the assisting of the International Monetary Fund programme. The minister, currently engaging in an official tour in Qatar, has conducted talks with several institutions in the country. The IOC company has curtailed the distribution of fuel. Accordingly, a motorcycle is being provided with 1,500 rupees for fuel and a three-wheeler with a full quota of 2,500, and motor cars are being provided full subjected to a restriction of 7,000 rupees. Provision of tokens of people lining up in queues in anticipation of the fall taking place these days. The program is being implemented with the cooperation of security divisions. A tense situation has been created when distributing tokens among those who have been waiting in queues for 4 days at the Sipetco filling station in Ambalangoda. As a result, distribution of tokens has been suspended. A student, Hansa Malit of the Agrabodhi National School in Kantale, has been successful in introducing a computer app for the prevention of having queues near filling stations. The new token system has been taken into consideration in the formation of a device. Accordingly, tokens could be received without waiting in queues. Meanwhile, vegetable prices have fallen drastically at economic centres island-wide, the reason being the decline in the number of traders arriving at the centres to purchase the produce. Our correspondents say that the situation has strongly affected daily activities in economic centres as well as of the farmers. The police have raided many locations throughout the island which were engaged in selling fuel at higher prices. A raid conducted by the Mavatakama police station upon receipt of information has enabled to apprehend 2 suspects who sold 400 litres of diesel at higher prices. The Association of Petroleum Distributors says 20% of the fuel received by filling stations is being reserved for the use of essential services. Lofts Gas Company has distributed 700 gas cylinders for consumers in Varakapola today. Each family is being provided 1 cylinder. President of the Private Bus Owners Association, Gamanu Vijayaratna, says 10% of the buses were deployed for the service today. Provision of fuel for private buses for fuel depots of the SLTB is being carried out continuously. Meanwhile, people were reported to be facing extreme difficulties due to the minimal level of operations of SLTB and private buses in rural areas. Students were seen travelling on the roof on a bus on their way home after school session on the Badulapassara road. "28 train journeys were compelled to be cancelled due to lack of fuel, making it possible for the railway employees to report to duty locations. The transport passengers have also been severely affected. Deputy General Manager of Railways, Gamini Senaratna, said that a program will commence to provide fuel to railway employees through the department.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, in his capacity as the Minister of Finance, has recommended to the President to extend a further 6 years of the tenure of Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe as the Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. His term of office is scheduled to end tomorrow. If a governor of Central Bank resigns from the post prior to the expiry of the 6 years term, a new Central Bank governor will have to be appointed. Ajit Niwad Cabral was appointed to the post of governor of the Central Bank following the NIV government came into power. However, later on he was replaced by Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe on the 7th of April this year. Accordingly, a NIV governor will have to be appointed to the bank with effect from the 1st of next month. Clause 13(1) of the Finance Act stipulates that the term of a governor of the Central Bank is restricted to 6 years. And meanwhile, the opposition leader Sajith Premadasa says the attempts to the government to sell local resources, including oil refinery, to the foreign countries under the cover of a crisis situation of the country are being strongly condemned.
He further says that under a government of his leadership would produce before the law any government official assisting in the process of selling the country's resources. Sajith Premadasa has made these remarks at a discussion with the representatives of the trade unions in the petroleum sector at the opposition leader's office last evening. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa said that they will defeat the failed program of the government. He also said that their labour and trade union forces have made strong objections over the government's attempts to destabilise the refinery operations. He has warned the government not to engage in underhand deals to sell the resources of the country.
Samagi Janabalawege says that all people against the government should come to the streets and fight for their rights.
SJB parliamentarian said at a media briefing in Colombo today that his party will give leadership to such forces. Parliamentarian Rajitha Senaratne said that the present government is trying to sell state properties cheaply one by one. The so-called leftists in the government have no power to oppose to such acts. This is the beginning of bankrupt privatization.
Leader of the National People's Power, Anura Kumar Dissanayake, says that a date will be informed later on to the entire general public to come to the street to protest against the government.
He made these remarks participating in a public meeting in Mathura. NPP leader Anura Kumar Dissanayake said that there have been stories about incoming full ships and making payments, but they have not arrived. The duty of the government is to detect beforehand of a crisis and to make solutions. But today, there is no 4 schools are closed. He also said that they are not obsessed with the power. The young generation should come forward and take over the country. Anrukumar Dissanayake said that they could stay in the background and assist them. He also said that they will inform a day when people in all villages come to the roads and stage protests.
General Secretary of the United National Party, Paalitharange Bandara, said that at a media briefing at Colombo today that Sajith Premadasa should join the government in order to set up an all-party government. UNP General Secretary Paalitharange Bandara said that both Sajith and Anura are seeking and asking for 5 years and 6 months respectively to govern the country. He has called on Sajith Premadasa to work on behalf of the people and join the government. And meanwhile, parliamentarian Patali Champikaranavaka says that the fuel crisis has driven the country into an economic standstill. He was addressing a media briefing on the 43rd Battalion in Colombo today.
MP Patali Champikaranavaka said that the fuel crisis has fallen the entire country into a desperate situation. The farmer is not able to reap the paddy harvest. No way to transport paddy to the mills for grinding. The rice stocks could not be brought to shops. There is no way to transport vegetables and fruits. As a result, the price of every item has gone up by 300%. The prices of some consumer items has gone up by 1,000% over fears of complete suspension of fuel in the country.
Mahanayaka of the Askiri chapter, Most Venerable Varakaguda Sri Gnanaratana Thera says that all must act with dedication in order to come out of the crisis facing the country. The Venerable Thera has made these observations at a ceremony at the Sri Jinamangala Rame in Madavala yesterday. The event has been organized in connection with the distribution of books, educational equipment and dry rations to the needy people. A group of Chinese businessmen has also attended the ceremony organized under the patronage of the chief incumbent of Jinamangala Rame, Venerable Lianvala Shasunarathna Thera.
Report of the Presidential Task Force on One Country, One Law was handed over to the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa by the Chairman of the Committee, the Venerable Dr. Galagodathe Gnanasara at the President's office in Fort today. The President has appointed the Presidential Task Force with the objective of receiving proposals on the preparation of a conceptual framework inherent to the country.
It has also been pointed out the need to take into consideration of the opinions of the views of different groups regarding the implementation of the concept of one country, one law in Sri Lanka. Membership of the committee is comprised of Professor Shanti Nanda Vijayasinghe, Senior Lecturer Sumendra Manjula, Physician Dr. Sujiva Panditharatna, Attorney at Law Iresha Seneviratna and Attorney at Law Sanjay Bandara Marambe, as well as Messrs. Eranda Kumaru Navaratna, Pani Vevala, Maulavi M.A.S. Mohammed, Yogeshwari Padgun Raja, Ayam Pillai and Dayananda Raja. The report has been prepared with 2 attached volumes of including 8 chapters and 43 recommendations upon recording of evidence from a group exceeding 1,200 persons covering all areas in the island. Those who have given evidence including professionals, non-governmental organizations, religious groups, numerous ethnic groups, the university community and veterans in the judiciary. The President has instructed to submit the report to the Cabinet of Ministers and Parliament.
Sri Lanka has received a consignment of 5,000 metric tons of rice as a contribution of the Chinese government. Chinese ambassador in Sri Lanka, Ki Zeng Hong, has officially handed over the donation to Minister Bandula Gunawardena yesterday. China has agreed to contribute 10,000 metric tons of rice to Sri Lanka to commemorate the 70th anniversary of the China-Sri Lanka Rubber Rice Pact. The agreement has been reached at a discussion conducted at the Chinese Embassy in Sri Lanka last January with the then Minister of Trade, Bandula Gunawardena.
I express our sincere gratitude to people of Republic of China for taking initiative to assist us in many ways. Amidst the present adverse economic situation of our country. Accordingly, China, our lifelong Asian friend has agreed to donate a consignment of 10,000 metric ton of rice to be used for the school students' food program. I would like to say that the donation will benefit over 1 million of students in about 7,900 schools of 9 provinces throughout the country. Entire consignment of rice can be used for a period of more than 6 months for the meal provided by the school to the students.
Early this morning, the first consignment of China's food assistance, 1,000 metric tons of rice, have arrived in the Colombo port. Now, our Sri Lanka brothers and sisters are suffering from the current crisis. The vulnerable populations, including children, especially the ones in low-income families, will suffer the most. That's why we have decided to support the school meal program at the request of Sri Lankan government to provide daily nutritious meals to the 1.1 million children. Today, consignment is one of many that will be delivered under China's 500 million RMB emergency humanitarian assistance to Sri Lanka. The next shipment will be arrived mid next week, and another one is scheduled to arrive in the following week, and more in pipeline. In total, we will supply enough rice to sustain the program for at least 6 months. In addition, we are all discussing with the ministry to provide school uniform materials for the new school year. Children are our future. I know that despite the challenges and the difficulties we are facing, the Sri Lanka government will spare no efforts to keep the children in school and well fed. And I do hope that the assistance we are provided today and in the months to come could help in the process.
Postal Department has taken measures to remain open post offices and sub-post offices only 3 days a week until the 10th of next month.
The decision has been taken into consideration of transport difficulties experienced as a result of the fuel crisis. And however, the Joint Postal Trade Union Front has objected to the decision and withdrew from duties to engage in a trade union action. Chintaka Bandara, co-convener of the Joint Postal Trade Union Front, said that the 3-day work circular would pave the way to collapse the oversales of mail, blocking several avenues in sending dollars to the country. He added that many of the businessmen import goods through the local EMS courier service. With a restriction of work period to 3 days, their businesses would be subjected to great difficulties. Meanwhile, Postmaster General Ranjit Anuradna said at the media briefing today that real objective of the trade union members is to earn overtime payments and holiday payments, although they say that their intention is to serve the people. Postmaster General Ranjit Anuradna said that the cabinet decision would prevent them from receiving overtime and holiday allowances. He added that they could not act against the finance ministry circular. He has reiterated and regretted the decision of the trade unions to refrain from work at a time when their services are needed mostly by the people.
2 persons have been shot to death in front of the walking track at the Bandaranaike Mawathe in Katubet, the Moratuwa. The police say that the victims were residents of Panadura. Preliminary inquiries have revealed that the shooting had taken place using a T-56 firearm by 2 suspects who came in a motorcycle. The Moratuwa police station says information has also been received regarding henchmen of a migrated drug racketeer Panaduru Kudusalindu committing the murders. That's a look at local news. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll bring you an update from Japan.
Welcome back with international news. And Japan is sweltering under the hottest day of its worst heat wave since records began in 1875.
The blistering heat has drawn official warnings of a looming power shortage and led to calls for people to conserve energy where possible. But the government is still advising people to use air conditioning and to avoid heart strokes or heat strokes as a case of hospitalization rise with the heat. Weather officials warn the heat is likely to continue in the coming days. Heat waves have become more frequent, more intense and last longer because of human-induced climate change. The world has already warmed by about 1.1 Celsius since the industrial era began, and temperatures will keep rising unless governments around the world make steep cuts to emissions. Tokyo charted temperatures about 35 degrees on Wednesday for a fifth straight day, marking the worst documented streak of hot weather in June since records started in 1875.
Prima Kotomi Pantan.
Welcome back with sports update. And the first test of the current series between Australia and Sri Lanka has commenced today at Galle International Cricket Stadium. And prior to the commencement of the match, great spin bowler Shane Warne was produced by Australia was remembered.
Officials of the Sri Lanka cricket, as well as the chief executive of the Australian Cricket Institute, Nick Hockley, were present to commemorate Shane Warne. Other attendees included former Sri Lankan captain Arjuna Ranatunga, who brought the world cricket crown to Sri Lanka in 1996, as well as other veteran players Aravinda De Silva, Muthaiya Muralidharan, Ramesh Kaluwitharana and Upul Chandana. Secretary of the Sri Lanka Cricket, Mohan De Silva, said that Warne, who had been one of the greatest cricketers of the world, had a great affection to the Sri Lankan people. He took part in several projects to enhance the living standards of the poor people in the country. His contributions included the post-tsunami reconstructions, provision of medical equipment to hospitals and taking care of rural children.
We love you, Shane, and we miss you. May the turf lie softly over you, and may your soul rest in eternal peace.
A plaque to commemorate this moment where Sri Lanka cricket paused for a moment.
President of the Sri Lanka Cricket, Shammi Silva, presented a special commemorative plaque to the chief executive of the Australian Cricket, Nick Hockley. Sri Lanka, after winning the toss, decided to bat first. Sri Lanka was all out for 212 runs for the first innings. The highest scorer was Niroshan Dikwela, who hit 58 runs. Angelo Matthews was 39. Captain Dimuth Karunaratne scored 28 runs. The best bowling figures for the Australian team were secured by Nathan Lyon, who captured 5 wickets for 90 runs. Mikael Swepson also took 3 wickets. At close of today's play, Australia has scored 98 runs for the loss of 3 wickets in their first innings. Ushman Khawaja and David Warner have established a 47-run partnership for the opening wicket. Tomorrow is the second day of the match. The I channel of the national television will provide a live telecast of the match.
Sri Lankan bronze medalist of the Paralympics, Samita Dulan, has been able to surpass the world record of the javelin throw event under the F44 category of the National Paralympic Tournament.
The tournament was concluded at the Sukadadasa Stadium in Colombo today. Dulan had created a new record by throwing the javelin distance of 66.80 metres. The current record holder of the event is Australian Michael Bryan, who threw a distance of 66.29 metres at the Tokyo Paralympics tournament. The National Paralympics Committee says that Samita Dulan's achievement could not be officially declared as a world record as the locals tournament was not conducted in accordance with international tournament laws.
Terima kasih, Pantan.
And with that, we conclude tonight's news. Due to tomorrow at the very same time. I'm Charita signing off with Sharon. Stay safe. Good night.